Bowling's Triple Crown begins today with the Bowling Proprietors United States Open from Venice, Florida. Winning any PBA title is special, but the prestigious United States Open is just a little more fulfilling. Last year, the talented Marshall Holman became the only player to win the United States Open twice, and then reflected the unique feeling a victory in this rich tournament brings. What excitement. David Ozio, the hottest bowler on the tour, won last week in Miami. And today he attempts to make it 2 in a row by taking home the $38,000 winner's check. ABC Sports presents, live for the 25th consecutive year, the Professional Bowlers Tour. Today we come to you from the west coast of Florida with a great championship field. In the first match, our number 5 qualifier, 21-year-old Ballard from Richardson, Texas, seeking his first tour victory. He'll meet David Ozio, last week's winner in Miami, a native of Vidor, Texas. Qualifying third, 27-year-old Voss, who has been shut out on the tour since 1984. The number 2 position belongs to Steve Cook. At 6 feet 7 inches tall, the biggest bowler in the tour and also the first lefty to make the final round this year. The winner of their matches will meet Frank Ellenburg, 31 years old from Mesa, Arizona, who is looking for his first victory in 4 years. All today on the Professional Bowlers Tour. And for the second year in a row, the United States Open has been contested here at the Galaxy Lanes in beautiful Venice, Florida. $38,000 to the winner of this year's United States Open. And next year it'll be even bigger and better, which we'll tell you about later. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chris Schenkel. And the Bowling Proprietors Association of America, they represent thousands and thousands of bowling lanes, like here at Galaxy, which allow 62 million or more bowlers to bowl at least one game a year and make it the great enjoyable sport that you like. Starting earlier this week, 240 bowlers. There were over 90 league bowlers. The rest, of course, full-time professionals. And now we've come down to the final 5. And what was so great about a U.S. Open field, it represented 43 states in the USA and 3 foreign countries. Winning this title is prestigious. My colleague found that out in 1978 in Greensboro, North Carolina. And you know, time does change hairstyles. Here is Nelson Burton Jr. with one of his countless strikes. He went on to win the United States Open, and here he is, let's see, 7 or 8 years later. Though I guess this had to be a paramount thrill for you.
It was, Chris. The major tournaments, the U.S. Open, the PBA National, the Firestone, that's what the bowlers key themselves for. And this tournament is really the oldest of the majors. The U.S. Open is actually the National Match Game Championship back in the 1920s. Then in 1941, the Bowling Proprietors Association of the United States put together the All-Star Tournament. It was a 100-game match game tournament, and the winner of that tournament was declared bowling's champion of the world for 1 year. Then in 1971, the U.S. Open joined the Professional Bowlers Tour on the ABC telecast to make the Triple Crown along with the National and the Firestone. So anybody who wins this tournament definitely has a feather in their cap and a career victory to talk about for many, many years. Now this week's tournament has been no exception. All the records for the U.S. Open were broken this week. Frank Ellenburg, our tournament leader, almost averaged 230 for the whole week. And this week, of all the weeks we've had, the 6th week on our series this year, this week I believe if the players can carry, they'll hit the pocket. If they can carry, we'll see some sensational scores. Chris, we're ready to go.
All right, thank you, Nelson Burton Jr. A pair of Texans. On the left, last week's winner, David Ozio of Vidor, Texas, in the Beaumont area. And here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you're looking at 21-year-old Ballard Jr. 4th year, looking for his first title. What a place to try and get it at the U.S. Open. Well, accepting the pressure of the very first shot on this championship pair of lanes 31 and 32, Ballard more than met the challenge. David Ozio, again, his charming wife Lisa is here to cheer him on, and he would like to become the 20th bowler ever on the Professional Bowlers Tour to win back-to-back tournaments. Light Classic last week, first leg of a possible $1 million. If he can win in Milwaukee and North Olmsted later, but right now it's this major event. First shot. So we are all even. David Ozio averaging 225 on this pair. And the America's sweetheart, who is the spokesperson for the bowling industry from Fairmont, West Virginia, Mary Lou Retton. What a gold medalist. One of the highlights of ABC's coverage of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympic Games. I'll talk to her at our first opportunity. Going for a double. Beau, this pair looks okay.
Chris, the scores have been sensational all week long. We're in a 40-lane bowling center here at Galaxy Lanes. You see the wall shot, the head pin go to the sideboard. Tremendous pin carry. That's one of the reasons you get high scores, plus a nice smooth roll to pocket. Here's Del Ballard to even the match.
And there we are. 4 shots, 4 strikes. We replay a profile view of his approach. Sneaks up to the line.
Much like the great Marshall Holman, has that nice steady head, that low profile in a crouch. Good pivot step as he drives through into his final shot. You see that ball almost palmed off his hand and slides very close to the foul line. Del is a real good young player with a little more experience. You're going to hear a whole lot about this man.
He has a wonderful career television record, 4-2 with a 202 average in 2 appearances prior to today. First league play was age 5. Well, they start him young. David Ozio, the 31-year-old. Second on the money earned list already this year. Almost slid by the pocket, Beau, but got the carry.
That's right, Chris, and there's that little good luck sign we saw last year. You see Ozio, the same type of strike he had in the 3rd frame. He goes to the sideboard with the head pin, a good spin on the ball, puts the spin on the pins, drives all the pins down as Lisa Ozio looks on. We are perfect through 3 frames for both players.
Well, and then reality set in as we look at the 2, 4, 8, 10. A little washing out here.
The ball slides by. The head pin is just chopped off the 2, 4, 5. You see the head pin doesn't quite make it to the sideboard to get the pin action on a 2, 4, 5, and it leaves the 2, 4, 8, 10. It's possible to make this, Chris. We saw it made last year in Baltimore, Washington, at the Fairlanes tournament. What you have to do is throw a great big hook and slide the 2 over into the 10. Hopefully the ball carry out the 4, 8.
All right, and for David Ozio, it is an open frame because of an error and immediately trails by 16 pins. This is the United States Open in bowling. We'll be back. Barry McGuigan, a tremendous athlete from the Belfast, Ireland area. And Beau, I did his last fight in Belfast when he took the measure of Bernard Taylor. He is an excellent athlete.
Chris, you told me that McGuigan has as good a body punch as anybody you've seen in that division. It should be an exciting fight. It will probably go the distance.
Here is a man that's really got punched today, opening with a turkey, now in the 4th frame. Punches another one into the pocket. Another knockout blow for Del Ballard of Richardson, Texas. Boy, he's really come out of the chute today, Nelson.
He's a cool customer from Texas, Chris. He has always been a good young player at age 22. He's just maturing out here in the tour. It takes a full year or two, and he had a few shots at the title last year. Last night he bowled sensational in the 56th game as he won that match to come into the top 5, and he started perfect through 4 frames today. Fingertip grip, 4 in a row.
And now we have a 5-bagger here at Galaxy Lanes in Venice, Florida for Del Ballard.
The camera angle is absolutely perfect on this championship pair. As you see the left lane, the ball finishes a little more than the right-hand lane. That's all the players really have to worry about. A pretty matched pair of lanes. The ball will hook about one board more on the left lane. Ozio trails by 36.
All but the 10 pin for David Ozio, who had that open frame last time up. All right.
Ozio picks up another ball, cross lane, a ball that is very shiny. That'll make it slide a little farther down the lane, not hook so much, better for control.
Well done. And so was his effort last week. So earlier today we asked him if there's added pressure as he's going for his second win in a row.
Well, the added pressure is, it's there, but one thing on my mind today, I got defeated so badly in match play the last 2 days that I'm really geared up today and I'm ready to bowl. I've got a little score to settle with these guys, and I'm going to work very hard to try to go all the way to the top.
Now, David comes up with a high hit, leaving the 6 pin on the left lane of this championship pair.
Ball cuts right through the middle. We said the left-hand lane hooks a pinch more. There you see it there. David almost had the 6-7-10 split. Breaks it up, leaves a 6-pin simple spare. He will trail by 37 with a conversion.
Now, the winner of this very first match in the United States Open will meet Brian Voss of Tacoma, Washington, the site of next year's United States Open. And then that winner will meet the only left-hander in the field of 5, Big Steve Cook. And then the tournament leader, Frank Ellenburg. Ladies and gentlemen, he is halfway to $100,000 from True Value Hardware.
Watch the action of the 2-pin. It goes to the sideboard, trips out the 4-7. He's got all the hits working for him, and watch his reaction. He's happiest. A pro, when he can carry that high hit, he knows he has all the shots working for him. It'll loosen him up. He's halfway. 6 in a row. Leads by 47.
Panther-like stance to the line. Thin hit, and he has left the 2, 4, 10. The string ends at 6 and still maintains his lead. Comfortable 44 pins, but this split, how do you shoot it, Nelson?
Chris, you have to go across lane. It's similar to the split that Ozio had, but a lot easier because the 8-pin is not in there. You have to hit the 2-pin on the left side, slide it over into the 10.
So now, each of the professionals has an open frame, but it's a 32-pin lead by Del Ballard from Richardson, Texas. We'll be back.
Next.
I've had the joy of traveling all over the world with this all-around champion, believe me. And here she is, spokesperson for the bowling industry. Mary Lou Retton, have you enjoyed it?
I really have. You know, being the spokesperson for bowling, it's my only endorsement that is also athletics. And, you know, my brothers and sisters always grew up in a bowling league. And the whole deal. Coming from Fairmont, West Virginia, it was a big thing back then. And one thing I'm very excited about that the BPAA is putting on this fall coming up, it's called the Super Bowl Saturday. And it's trying to get all the bowling people to get behind it, and it's for young kids to bowl.
You know, we're so fortunate. It's about 75 degrees outside in Fairmont, West Virginia, 9 inches of snow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You keep that jacket on if you're going home. What about gymnastic competition?
I'm undecided. Right now, you know, I'm working out, I'm traveling, doing everything. Everything's pretty controlled. But I'm going to have to sit down with my coach, Bella, and make some decisions soon.
Well, it's been a joy traveling with you and commenting on your tremendous talent. And this is a girl that learned that it takes fewer muscles to smile than it does to frown. Thanks, Mary Lou.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
Beau?
Such a delightful young lady, Chris. Now, David Ozio has got himself in big trouble. He started the game perfectly, then had a split in the 4th. He was off in the 5th, once again off in the 6th. Trails by 32 pins, 7th frame. Needs to get some strikes. No problem there for David. As you see the ball enter the 1-3, drive out the 5, take out the 9. The 6 does the work on the 10 pin, and that's the way they write it in the textbook. All 10 in the pit. Ozio trails by 32. 8th frame needs this double very badly to get back in the match.
Different sizes of the bowlers today when we were at that tiny Mary Lou Retton. David's 5'11", 170. 6'7" coming up. Beautifully done on that double. Anxiety of Lisa. Action track, Beau.
You see the line that David Ozio is playing inside the third arrow to accommodate that fairly good hook and the hooking left-hand lane. The ball goes about 45 feet down the lane, takes the break. You just can't do it any better. Del Ballard, 8th frame, leads by 22.
The 10 pin. Del's roommate and doubles partner, our friend Mike Edwards from Tulsa, is off to the right just rooting like crazy for his roommate because you always need cash when you're traveling, Beau.
Well, Mike Edwards and this Del Ballard, these two young men are going to make a whole bunch of money on the Professional Bowlers Tour. Back to the match, cross lane for the 10 pin.
So spare in the 8th for our leader, and he shows very little expression. Short and stocky, 5'10", 170 pounds. And I mentioned sizes, Beau. A little bit later on, Brian Voss is 5'10", 160, but then Steve Cook, 6'7", 260 pounds, and he's a left-hander. Foundation strike for Richardson Texan Professional.
Here's the line of Del Ballard, not quite playing as much hook as David Ozio. And watch the pin action, how he just slices out that 6 pin into the right channel. Look at the ball in there. The 6 pin just creams the 10. What a tremendous action. What a tremendous shot.
Looking at the overhead score sheet.
David Ozio taking a re-rack, one of the 3 he's allowed in the match. Just about has to strike on this shot. Must situation for Ozio. Ballard going at a 235 pace. Ozio a possible 243. 9th frame.
And as he did last week, when he needed the strikes, he came through. Closing stages of his victory over in the Miami area.
The tender touch of David Ozio. He knows it's there. He knows it's there. It keeps him in the match. Right now, he only trails by 12 pins. Chris, he's using speed, the inside line on the left-hand lane. He's throwing it much slower with a lot more touch on the right-hand lane. He's come back from a tremendous deficit of 47 pins. He's back in the match, can cut the lead down to just 2 pins with a strike here in the 10th.
It's on the left lane. Week plagued with a virus, nonetheless went on to the top, is back in great form, and now only 2 pins in this 10-pin game separate the pros.
The match itself just trails by 2 pins. David has come all the way back. He can now take the lead for the first time in the match.
Helplessly seated, Del Ballard. But he'll be up next, of course. And now Del Ballard has to retaliate.
What a terrific shot under pressure. I'll tell you, there's a man who has practiced a lot, Chris, and he's so dedicated.
Though his reaction is wonderful. You know, it's almost like a boxing match. You know, jabbing and sparring, trying to find an opening, and then coming through with a knockout punch. That's what Barry McGuigan will try to do against Cabrera on ABC's Wide World of Sports following the Professional Bowlers Tour.
Ozio has definitely given it the best shot he has. What a tremendous comeback. He'll be in the 240s. 240. What a comeback.
Beautifully done, and Lisa can relax, at least momentarily. Because now Del Ballard with that strike in the 9th, 5 pins, and David can just sit and wait.
The job facing Del Ballard is very simply this. He must strike on this ball and get at least 6 in a spare to win the match. Right now we have a slight delay. Right now they haven't re-racked the left-hand lane, the 4, 6, 7 split that David Ozio left on his fill ball or 12th ball. And Del Ballard would like that re-rack before he throws. Still waiting.
So in this age of chips, computers, etc., still took a man to get back there to do it.
Great young player on the approach, must strike on this ball. So disappointed. David Ozio has it all going for him, Chris. He won that big light tournament last week in Florida. Ballard put as good a shot on him as you possibly could and got the only bad break of the match, a solid 10. Cannot be embarrassed about that, except it's going to cost him some money.
Yes, because he really wanted to get into that Firestone Tournament of Champions, but to win a major. So we have David Ozio moving ahead as he did last week, and it will be Brian Voss of Tacoma, Washington, tough competitor, that will be his opponent right after these messages.
The Professional Bowlers Tour, today coming from Venice, Florida, is being brought to you by Rich, Smooth Meisterbrow, the beer that only tastes expensive. By Firestone, with over 4,000 Firestone retailers from coast to coast. And by Kellogg's Corn Flakes. We'll return with more bowling after these messages and a word from your local station.
We're live in Venice, Florida. We hope you were with us for that first match, our best first match of the year. Each bowler with 8 strikes. Ozio edging Del Ballard, a non-winner, 240 to 235. Now Ozio, the winner last week, will go against Voss. And our newly established series, Ask Beau. Dear Beau, tell us about it.
Chris, it's really in reference to how you should bowl. When is your turn to bowl? And basically the answer that'll follow for everyone is this. Give courtesy and right away to the bowlers on the adjacent lanes, left and right. For instance, David Ozio is coming up on 31. Naturally, nobody else is bowling, but he should give right away to lane 30, right away to lane 32, and then he's covered. You don't interfere with anybody else. That's the best way to do it, and you keep the bowling moving along quite quickly.
Beau will answer your questions about bowling by sending to Ask Beau, Post Office Box 1986, Radio City Station, New York, New York, 10101. All right, we go into our second game. Brian Voss, 2-time winner. In 5 years, a member of the PBA goes against this man, who in 9 years has 3 PBA titles, won 3 of the last 27 tournaments that he's been in.
He's red hot, Chris.
So big 240 to Del Ballard's 235, and Ozio of Vidor, Texas, has that first frame strike. Now, Brian Voss, first championship round appearance this year. Last year, he was on our telecast 3 times without winning.
One of the 2 most steady bowlers on the Professional Bowlers Tour this year. He has cashed at all 6 tournaments along with Marshall Holman.
Sliding by, leaving the 1, 2, 4, 8. The man that won in Detroit and in Houston. This is a total purse of $200,000. 38 to the winner, 20 runner-up, 11, 8, and $6,400 to the loser of the first match, Del Ballard. And next year, a $500,000 total in Tacoma, Washington.
That'll be our opening telecast on ABC Sports from Tacoma, Washington, U.S. Open. A $100,000 first prize.
Beautifully covered. Brian Voss, 27 years old. The cover boy, former Army corporal.
Nice cover as he goes to the left. The head pin picks up the 1, 2, 4, 8. Brian Voss, a very disciplined player, a style very similar to his opponent, David Ozio. Both young men, well-conditioned weightlifters, runners, and have got a lot of experience behind him. Voss, a star for many years, has had tremendous years out here so far on the tour, and will continue to have them with that tremendous style.
Bill Voss in his first match today was marked with a spare and a strike in the second. Ozio striking the first as we replay the shot.
Same type of shot that we saw Ozio use in the second and third frames of the first match. Hitting light, driving those 3-pound, 6, 7, and 8-ounce pins to the sideboard, bringing them back across the lane. What an instrument of destruction that ball was as Voss crushed the pocket. 218 average leads the PBA. The all-time record is 221 for a whole season by the great Mark Roth.
Big double for the man on this championship pair throughout the qualifying and match play. Shot 258, 227, and a 240 in the first game.
As our action line tracer shows, he's not playing the big hook on the right-hand lane. He's rolling a medium speed ball, letting the ball do the work. When you're great and on a hot streak as David Ozio is right now, this game is so simple. And he's making it look that easy right now. He's going to be very, very tough to beat.
Yeah.
And he has a three-bagger. His wife, Lisa, enjoying it.
The 2-pin to the sideboard trips out the 4, 7, and 9. Ozio has them all going. The light ones, the solid ones, the ones in the pocket. Plus a little luck in the first match as he went by Del Ballard 240 to 235. Brian Voss needs a double to cut that lead down to 10.
Gets it. The man who was 8th last year here at Galaxy Lanes and 11th in 1983.
The good spin on a bowling ball. The top pros, when they really, really amp it up, can get as many as 14, 15 revolutions on a bowling ball. The Holman types, the Voss types, the Mark Roth types, they can overpower those pins. An average amateur maybe gets 4 or 5 revs. These guys, 14, 15. That's why you get that type of pin action.
Speaking of Roth, he finished 16th, Wayne Webb 15th, and Pete Weber 14th as we move to St. Louis next week.
Hometown. Voss to even the match.
Another Del Ballard with that 10-pin, but this time on the left lane.
Brian Voss disappointed with that shot. He made the adjustment on the lanes. He had a little more loft out over the line, which delayed the hook on the hooking left-hand lane, left the solid 10. Everything going David Ozio's way right now.
All right, as we near the halfway point of our second match, David Ozio, who won the first, leads by 11 pins. We'll be back. Those 16-pound bowling balls really doing a job on our championship pair today. Our first game, this man shot a 240 with 8 strikes to Del Ballard's 235, 8 strikes. Now, here in the second game against Brian Voss, he has a 3-bagger working, shooting in the 4th frame.
He's nicknamed the Wizard, and you can see why. He's just bowling so well, so disciplined. He's just a bowling technician out there. He's leaving nothing to error, has only made 1 errant shot in the first game and a half. David Ozio, leading money winner on the tour, leading average on the tour, has it all going, and he's perfect through 4.
Now he has 5 in a row. And the pressure mounts on Brian Voss, who finished 3rd out of a field of 240, because now he's trailing by 31, spare up in the 4th, shooting in the 5th.
Not this bachelor, who is an excellent dancer, very entertaining on and off the lanes. Not much to his undoing. He's only had 1 off shot. The first frame, solid in the pocket. The second, third, solid 10 in the 4th. 5th frame.
All right. We don't know how he prepares for dancing, but we did ask him what he does to prepare for bowling. Here's his answer, Brian Voss.
Well, I like to stay pretty active. I do a lot of running. I take advantage of the Nautilus equipment that's available. A little basketball with the guys, and I have an exercise routine that I am pretty faithful with. I just like to stay active and keep myself in shape.
And he is in shape. 5'10", 160.
Learned to bowl in Anchorage, Alaska. His dad was an officer in the Army, owned a 12-lane bowling center up there, and that's where he got most of his bowling experience. He's a well-rounded bowler. He can hit almost any lane condition. Get it!
Oh, he tucked that one in. And what an important double, cutting Ozio's lead, 21. And male modeling has been income-producing little sideline.
Well, he has an excellent agent, Ernie Schlegel, who is the colorful young man who's been out here for years. His wife handles a few of the top professional bowlers, and due to Kathy Schlegel, has promoted Brian Voss into some good income. David Ozio perfect through 5.
Now make it 6. The winner of this second match will meet Big Steve Cook. And there's the pocket hit.
Just a bowling technician out there doing his job. Perfect through 6 frames. As you mentioned the first match, Chris, if a player can roll a perfect game in any of the championship round matches, a $100,000 bonus.
Distraction off to the right.
One of the machines on our practice pair, there's 40 lanes here at the Raffi Carry-On Galaxy lanes in Venice, and one of the practice lanes, the player asked for a re-rack over there, and the pin fell out of the rack. David very smartly stepped back off the approach, reset himself.
Doing that mental check. Ends at 6, and it's 10 pin on the left lane. Crowd appreciates it.
And he was beginning to think $100,000. When you're bowling as well as he is, he was disappointed not only for the 10 pin, for the 300,000, but the match is still in balance.
It is. Precariously close to the channel on that cross lane shot to make his spare in the 7th frame. Ozio leading by 30, and our second match, more of it following this. Yes, ABC Sports Professional Boxing. First of a double-header tomorrow in boxing. Now, there are 2 punchers, Beau. They punch like you do. I mean, one. It should be good. Tyson, exciting. Ferguson is no slouch.
You will be there to cover it, Marty. Get it!
He loved it. Gave him a 3-bagger and cut the lead to 20.
What an important hit. Watch the action as a 6 pin on the 2nd pin on the right-hand part of your screen. That good spin on the bowling ball. It's imparted from the 3 pin into the 6 pin. It does the job on the 10 pin. Keeps Brian Voss in the match. What a tremendous break. Now watch his reaction. He'll love this.
He stirred him down and then exhaled.
Collecting his thoughts. Brian Voss, mature, experienced player on the Professional Bowlers Tour. Can make this a tight match with a strike here in the 8th. Come on!
Just getting the 10 out. In this second match, we've had 13 strikes already.
Watch the action of the 6 pin. Almost identical to the strike he had there in the 7th. That's why you put hook power in turn on a bowling ball. And I bet you this reaction's even more enjoyable. Let's see how Ozio reacts to that. Sometimes when a player gets a couple of good breaks, you can have some negative thoughts. Ozio came up in the 7th. He was disturbed, left a soft 10, the same type of hit that Voss just carried in the 7th and 8th frames. Let's see how he reacts. Leads by 10.
averted the split, leaving the 4-7 discussed.
Brian Voss not watching his opponent, watching what happens to his opponent, and it's really a pretty good idea. You can get some negative thoughts if your opponent gets good breaks, or you can get some thoughts about the lanes are changing and so on and so forth. So it will be an 8-pin difference with this conversion by David Ozio.
All right. And Nelson, we have two tremendously talented bowlers, but when you say equally well groomed.
I agree. The PBA has, with the PBA school and the 2,900 members we have, has really done a terrific job with grooming all the top pros, especially the ones that appear in the championship round. These are great young gentlemen right now bowling for a whole bunch of money. 9th frame.
Back in the 9th for Ozio. Still a close match, 207 through the 8th. 8 pins separating these two, and that can change right now.
They say there's no defense in professional bowling, but there is. Psychologically, Voss had 2 good breaks in the 7th and 8th. Ozio just showed him, say, hey, I'm still there. He threw a powerful swisher strike in the 9th. Let's see how Voss reacts to it the first time that he has been able to take the lead in the whole match. 9th frame strike, he'll lead by 2.
Instead, the 2-4-8.
Just a little bit of pressure put on him by Ozio. The situation of the lane being a little tight as Brian checks the overhead automatic score. Leaves the 2-4-8 with a conversion here. He'll trail by 11 pins. He's going at a 196 pace, a 236 pace with a conversion. Ozio at a 247 pace.
Voss is sparing the 9th frame, 11 pins. And remember, in that first match, at the end, only 5 pins separated Ozio and Ballard. The two of them, each with 8 strikes.
The prospects for Brian Voss are simply this. If he strikes in the 10th and 11th and 12th, he will trail by 1 pin and force Ozio to fill at least 20 pins. Voss needs this one.
What a performance.
The players are up for the match. All the scores have been high. In the first match, we saw a 240 defeat a 235. The scores are going to be even higher in this match. Voss, a possible 246. He needs this strike to cut the lead of that man, David Ozio, down to just 1 pin.
Another 10 on that left lane.
Lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place, and they say it doesn't, but it did right here at Galaxy Lanes. A solid 10 that was the undoing of Del Ballard did the same thing to Brian Voss here in the 11th frame.
That's still a big 236 for Brian Voss. Remember, Ballard had a 235, but the man in blue and white, he had a 240.
The graphic tells the story. David Ozio needs a spare or a strike, and he wins the match to go against Big Steve Cook. If he opens, it's Voss in the semifinal.
All right, 3-6.
Did not attack on that particular ball. He tried to become protective for the first time all day and has left himself a difficult spare. You have to guard against a chop, yet you don't want to slide by. He must make this spare to win the match. If he opens, he loses.
Way to the left of center. Cross lane. Okay. About as perfect as you can cover the 3-6, and Lisa liked it. That's the reaction. Ozio has won his second match of the afternoon with 8 strikes. He shot a 247 to Brian Voss's 236. Nelson Burton Jr. each week brings you the tip of the week to help your bowling game. Watch and listen.
The Professional Bowlers Tour Tip of the Week is brought to you by Old Spice Stick Deodorant and Solid Antiperspirant. We give you 24-hour protection.
In all sports, we've heard the saying, playing with injury, and bowling is no exception. With me is second all-time leading money winner Mark Roth, the man who throws the powerful hook ball. And Mark, I'm sure that you have to pay some sort of penalty for throwing all that power, and basically it comes right in the hand.
Yes, it does, Beau, and I try and keep my fingers soaked because basically you need your fingers calloused to bowl, and some people have calluses on the hand. They try and use a glove. I like to bowl with nothing on my hand because I like the ball to sit on the palm of my hand.
In other words, you got to toughen up the fingers a little bit, but you can prevent something from happening by a palm glove.
Right. And the third one is the thumb, and I use new skin and cotton. I kind of keep it on the back, and occasionally I might tear on the side of my thumb, and I'll put a patch on the side. But the other key spot is down here in the crease. Skin, you know, people like to keep it tight fit, and occasionally the skin ribs, and that's basically the most painful spot.
All right, there you have it. Basically, all of us are having a little pain in the sport of bowling. Toughen up the fingers. You can prevent injuries to the palm, and plaster or patch up that thumb as preventive maintenance. And if you do have a blister, patch it up before you go to your tournament play.
Once guys try the 24-hour...
All right, in 2 matches, we've had a total of 31 strikes, thus big scores. Knockout bowling of Ozio, 240 to 235 in the first, 247 to Brian Voss's 236. And tomorrow on ABC, you will see a doubleheader. First, Mike Tyson. None of his opponents has gone beyond 4 rounds, Beau. 17 fights, 17 knockouts.
Well, some of them, I think, Chris, is just coming up, a strong hitter like that. But he'll have trouble with Ferguson, and then you will be doing the second half as the announcer in the Carl Williams, the Truth Williams against Mike Weaver, a guy who's, what, 7 times gone for the title?
He's been in title fights 7 times, held the title. Carl the Truth Williams, I think, is the finest of the non-champions in the heavyweight division. That's in Troy, New York.
Venice, Florida today. How do you get to Troy, New York tomorrow?
Well, I have plan A, plan B, plan C.
And I'll bet you that's what Carl the Truth Williams has also.
Yes, he does. That's tomorrow. But today, Barry McGuigan and Corbera live from Dublin.
Well, a little lighter weights there, Chris, but I like the, you know, in my opinion, you like to see the good knockout artists every once in a while, but I like the short guys that can go the distance at the 130 and 40-pound classes.
We're ready now, and speaking of size, definitely heavyweight size, 6 feet 7, 260 pounds, seated Steve Cook of Roseville, California, an 8-time champion. Here's a 3-time champion who won last week and now has won 2 matches today. What an average today.
Living up to his name, the Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Ozio. Semi-final match.
Same old story, starting with a strike in the first frame. Once went with 6, ended there.
Pops that 6 pin out of the channel into the 10. Tremendous pin action. But here's the big guy, probably the most determined, I think one of the toughest men to beat in professional bowling, not only because of his size, but of his bowling ability and his attitude. He wants to win more than any player I've ever seen.
That has left the 3 pin, and there were 21 left-handers in the field of 240. This is the survivor.
The big guy, 6 feet 7 inches tall, 240 pounds, cupped wrist, good knee bend, tremendous wrist action, good extension, and a little tester right here, Chris, the 3 pin. He missed that in Peoria last year when he changed balls for his spare to lose the match. He didn't change balls today, keeps that same grip after the pin that was his downfall last year.
Such a smooth release at the line for such a big man.
Well, the little trouble that Steve Cook had in the last year and a half simply came from a batting cage accident in 1983. He was in hitting some baseballs, and by the way, he can really hit them. He had his hand hit, and his wrist and finger were broken. And finally, Larry Lichtenstein, who is the PBA expert in ball drilling, made an amazing bowling ball. Just quickly for the people that are into bowling, he has a 1 1/4 inch thumb, a 1/2 inch reverse away from the center of the ball, and 15/16 towards the palm, and foam in the back of the thumb hole. He's got all the help.
It's always a thrill to watch left-handers. The way that ball arcs into the pocket, 1-2 pocket. Here it is.
The angle of attack close to the channel, then the sharp break at approximately 45 feet down the lane drives all 10 pins in the pit.
Going for a double. Now you can see why in 2 games he's averaging 243. 16 strikes.
Talented, confident, money in the bank, has it all going, cool under the pressure. He's not even trying to help the ball. He's bowling with determination of a champion in the relaxation of a practice match. Waits for that ball and lets the body do all the work. Complete body bowler.
Seven pin for the first time on the left lane.
Playing a much deeper or more towards the center angle on the left lane, and he doesn't quite drive the 5 pin hard enough towards the 7. See the 5 pin, the second pin the ball hit, it nicks the 4, doesn't quite take out the 7. David Ozio will lead by 9 pins with this conversion.
All right. 9 pins separating these two, and the man trailing by 9 is Steve Cook, but he can take a lead by 1, shooting in the 3rd frame, strike up. And the former Firestone champion, second once, shows what he's made of, Nelson.
Just a great athlete, tremendous power, and he takes advantage of it. The full arm swing, and he lets that ball roll so smoothly off his hand at the foul line. That any one trouble that Steve Cook has had in his career out here on the Professional Bowlers Tour is an erratic release. He has it down better than I've ever seen before, and if he gets hot with that power, determination, and he's such a good disciplinarian on and off the lanes, he could be tough for years and years every week. Leads by 1, can take an 11-pin lead.
Won the PBA National Doubles with his brother-in-law, Mike Albee, last year. Breaking sharply, and the 2-4 standing.
2-4, tough spare 4, especially a big power player like Steve Cook. Now he's reaching back, getting that rosin pad. And I like to see what he's doing now. He just has to get the ball and avoid the chop. You don't want to take that 2-pin back off the 4. You want to cover both pins with the ball.
So we mentioned the money that goes to the competitors. Very often our bowling events contribute to charity. Rafi Carrion, $11,000 to United Cerebral Palsy. Great effort.
Tremendous gesture.
So we congratulate Rafi and Wendy Man Resnick. We're reaching the midway point of our 3rd match, 1 pin separating the 2.
It just keeps on rolling on the Professional Bowlers Tour. $125,000 shootout at the St. Louis Open next Saturday on ABC Sports.
Looking at David Ozio, won the first 2 matches as we're running behind our allotted schedule. In the 4th, he left a 2-4-5, made a spare. Here in the 5th, he's shooting a 7-pin. Just gets it. Trailing now by 3 with a spare working, Steve Cook shooting in the 5th.
Aggressive, exciting Steve Cook. There's nobody, I think, that I enjoy seeing more get a string of strikes, 5, 6, 7 in a row than this big man. Wiping off the lane conditioner. Look at his wife, Candy. What a sweetheart. It looked like she was pulling on her cheek. Maybe they got a little something going down there. But Steve Cook wiping the oil off his bowling ball to get an even roll.
Six on the right lane for the lefty.
Much more disciplined game this year by Steve Cook than I've seen in years past. He doesn't play as sharp a hook, and he's not throwing as hard. He thinks it's going to hold. It's going to hold. Give me a break on that 6-pin. Not to be. Conversion here. He'll lead by 2 pins after 5 frames. Semi-final match.
His ability, it's hard to believe that his last singles title was in 1983.
Chris, and in that singles title, he bowled probably the finest game I had ever seen. You remember when he came out as the tournament leader in the Firestone Tournament of Champions, and after mediocre scoring all day long, he started with 10 strikes in a row. It culminated the championship match with a 287.
Re-rack as we look at the upcoming stop to Nelson's hometown, St. Louis, $125,000 Open, followed by the Light Beer Championship, $150,000. And then the True Value Open in Peoria, King Louis Open in Overland Park, Kansas. For Cook, 6 frame.
Looked off to the right, just to make sure the camera men at the other end, the newspaper people, were not moving.
Wanted that one the worst way. Spare up. And it's such a close match.
There's the break he wanted in the 5th frame. He finally got it in the 6th. The 3-pin goes to the sideboard, takes out the 6-10. Steve Cook leads by 2. The Wizard is up, 6th frame. And he told me before the start of today, Chris, he was starting to get tired. This is 12 straight days of bowling for David, under pressure.
And mustering strength, I'm sure a lot of which she gets from Lisa. Incidentally, her earlobe tugging, she told me earlier, it was to say hello to her sister.
The way David's making money every week, 30, 40, 50,000 a pop, and a crack at that light million, he may have his own telephone lines there, Chris.
Look at his performance on the championship pair. Beautifully balanced.
To retake the lead, he trails by 2.
So David hasn't had it easy today, winning the first match by 5 pins and the next by 11. We'll be back with more of the third following this.
I have 3 grown children.
Defends his featherweight crown live from Dublin. He's the pride of Ireland. And when he fights, it's with the heart and soul of a nation resting on his shoulders. This charismatic champion defends his title on BBC's Wide World of Sports. Next.
David Ozio is up, and when we left, he was trailing by 2, but then Steve Cook in the 7th and 8th frame doubled to take now a 12-pin lead, but Ozio has a double working, shooting in the 8th frame. Two, 4, 5.
There's a turning point in any match game, and it came right here in the 8th frame as Steve Cook went up and threw a double to take the lead. Ozio, needing to answer that double with another strike of his own to stay in the match, left the 2, 4, 5. Remember, he left that same combination, the 4th frame on the right-hand lane, converted easily. Once again, he needs this to stay in the match. Uh-oh.
Got away from him. A little sticking at the line, but after 2 powerful victories, Trouble City.
David Ozio, winner last week, and looking like he was rolling to another title, the U.S. Open, his first major this week. All of a sudden, 8th frame semifinal match, collapsed and went from right in the match to trailing by 29. He must strike on this ball.
Tremendous performer. See the disappointment registered in his face. Constantly seeking perfection. And it's been a dry spell for Steve Cook of Roseville, California. Nearing the $500,000 mark in total money earned in a 9-year Professional Bowlers Association career. 3-bagger going, leading by 29. This is the 9th frame. complexions.
Candy Cook, she knows what that sound from the crowd means. She's trying to refigure the scoreboard. And here's what Steve Cook must do. He must just throw the ball over here at the 610 and make sure he covers the 2 pins. Don't really try to go for splits when they're straight across from each other like the 4-6. Keep up the pin count.
How hard can he throw the ball, Nelson?
Steve Cook, as hard as anybody wants out there. The average shot for the strike, Chris, is around 18 miles an hour. Steve Cook, if he wants to bounce it out, should go somewhere, and he can do it well close to 25 miles an hour. Let's see what he does. There it goes.
Yeah, burned it. Talk about an all-out effort. A Mike Tyson knockout punch.
Watch what power can do. Look at him drive the 6 and the 10. Here it comes. It bounces back up on the pin deck. Nothing touches it. Just doesn't get the break. But remember, he still has the lead in the match. What a tremendous shot. Steve Cook leading by 14, going at a 2:12 pace. David Ozio still a possible 2:18. The winner will have to throw strikes in the 10th.
Well, there's one of the 2 he needs, +7. Pressure just comes down to these final shots. Amazing.
2 great clutch bowlers up there bowling in the semifinal match of the first major of the 1986 season, the U.S. Open. 38,000 first prize awaits the winner. This graphics tells the story. 1 strike and 7 pins to shut out Ozio. If he does not strike on this ball, Ozio can win it with 2 strikes in the 10th and 11th.
Just a tremendous pressure release on his part, and what a shot.
The big guy has taken over. He needs 7 pins to go on to bowl the tournament leader, another big guy, Frank Ellenburg, for the match. But this is the first time that David Ozio's opponent didn't get a bad break in the 11th frame. Del Ballard had a chance to double solid 10. In the next match, he came up and had a chance to double solid 10 again. So Brian Voss went the same way, but not Steve Cook.
All right. More than enough. Shooting a 222 with 8 strikes. Ozio, who won the first 2 with an average of 243, wins 11,000, and next it'll be Cook against Frank Ellenburg for the championship. Our third game, a change of winners. Steve Cook, 222. David Ozio, who won the first 2 matches impressively, shot a 205. So for the title and $38,000 United States Open title, it's going to be Ellenberg and Cook.
Jerry Miller, Tom Kreitz, 300 by Schaefer, Deadeye, Walter Ray, Powerful, Bob Handling. Look for your favor in there. Bartholomew, David Houston, former U.S. Open champion. Moon Baker, Pete Weber, Wayne Webb, Roth, great names. Carlson, Atkins, another one of the league players that made the top 24. Art Trask, week after week, looking sharp. The great Tommy Baker has his wife on vacation. Lisa down here enjoying some money. Mike Edwards, Larry Womack, veteran Jimmy Certain, Ron Williams round out the top 24. 56 games, 240 in the field, 60th place, paid $1,000. And look at the average of the field, 207, 217 to make the top 24. By far the best scoring term of the year, Chris. 4 300s shot this week.
And with a capacity crowd here at the Venice Galaxy Lanes on the west coast of Florida, we are set for the title match. Frank Ellenburg of Mesa, Arizona, 33 years old. Well, he had the lead, as you see, in the 4th and 5th rounds. Then Brian Voss, and then Frank gaining it back in the 7th and last. And here he is going for $38,000, more than he won all of last year. $20,000 goes to the runner-up in this game.
Well, the money is up there. You're talking $38,000, and on the surface, it looks like an $18,000 difference. But to the Frank Ellenburg, our tournament leader, somebody asked me what it's worth to Frank. I said, you know, Chris, it's got to be $60,000. Number one, he'll be back in the Firestone, and with his record, he's going to win some money there. Number two, he has a career that he could foster, and he's the type of guy that can take advantage of a U.S. Open title for endorsements outside. This is a great big game for Steve Cook, but tremendously important for Frank Ellenburg.
Got a 222 in the last game and opens with a strike. Commissioner Joe Antonora of the Professional Bowlers Association here at the United States Open, which next year will be contested in Tacoma, Washington for a total purse of $500,000, $100,000 of the winner. And that'll be pressure, but there's plenty on this likable 33-year-old Frank Ellenburg. Masters champion in '78, won his last title in 1981. Oh, rather light hit and gets it, Beau.
Very aggressive, very confident shot for Frank Ellenburg. If you see the big guy, 6'4", cutting the ball short, that means a short follow-through. You know that either one of these players, especially at this size, are going to have trouble. But you see Frank Ellenburg, 6 feet 4 inches tall, all stretched out, drives down, deep knee bend, palms that ball, and look at the follow-through go high and stretched out. If you see it start shortening up, trouble for Frank Ellenburg. If you see him reach out like that, he'll be very, very tough. There's a man who does not beat himself. He's determined.
Beautifully done. Before going on the air, Frank asked me, he said, do you and Beau get butterflies before you go in here? And I said, squadrons of them. And I asked him about his, and he said, well, he's trying to get them to flee. And I think he has.
Well, I think sometimes, in fact, I'm sure being a little bit nervous especially, or at least apprehensive out there on the lane is very important. It keeps the adrenaline flowing, keeps your mind acute to what the job is in front of you. Another big determined man needs a strike to even the match. Steve Cook.
Not quite. 7-pin. Next week, the St. Louis Open, one of the cradles of all of bowling.
St. Louis has a little snow up there. They say it's warming, and the players are heading up that way. It'll be another great, great TV finals, our 7th week in the Professional Bowlers Tour. But now we're in the first 6th week, the first major, the U.S. Open.
And we'll get to see Dick Weber again. The senior bowler. Candy Cook, whose sister is married to Indianapolis's Mike Albee.
Steve Cook, who is a nemesis of the great Earl Anthony. He beat Earl Anthony all 5 times they competed against each other in the championship round. And of course, Earl, with plenty of money back there, he probably has to spend half a championship round just counting it now. Doesn't miss getting whipped by this great man. 2 men that are left-handers and great friends. Steve Cook.
Leaving the 4-7. And, Beau, there are a lot of left-handed bowlers in league play, so they really enjoy to see one in the final 5.
And you can see, Chris, the angle that the left-hander's playing. He doesn't have to worry about that wear or tear on the right-hand side quite as much, because the left side's a little smoother, so he can play that outside trajectory out around the 1st or 2nd board, increases your carry power. 4-7 for Steve Cook. Needs it to trail by 12 pins.
A little body English there. Well, he got the 4-7, but just with a spare in the 3rd. Now Ellenburg, the tournament leader, with the double up, shooting in the 3rd. He can really tighten the screw a little bit here, leading by 12.
Frank with that 5.5-inch span, tremendously strong and powerful hands. Look at how his hand is wrapped all the way, looks like all the way around the circumference of 27 inches of that bowling ball, but 5 inches around, as he is a little bit disturbed. The camera person moved down there. We have a screen that blocks out all the still cameramen, Chris, and sometimes it's it's
not a TV camera. It's still camera,
still
right?
cameras. And I can't blame Frank. There's not, you can hear a pin drop in this bowling centers. So important.
That's it. Take another deep breath, Frank. Using all the approach, his right heel is off of it. That will help him, no doubt about it, having to recapture the concentration, and that gives him 3 in a row.
Watch the trajectory of the ball rolled by Frank Ellenburg. Lofted out on the lanes, all drive through with his legs, right? Frank is a leg bowler. He just drives so hard with those legs. Solid in the pocket. You see the 6 driving out to 10. In the driver's seat after 3 frames, an aggressive, determined Ellenburg leads by 22 pins. Can extend to 32 with another strike.
2 heavyweights in bowling for the U.S. Open title.
No perfect game, but Frank cannot be disappointed with that shot. He put it just about where he wanted it. Leaves the soft 10 to the light 10. You see the 6th lane in the channel. Doesn't get quite the break that we had seen Brian Voss get in earlier matches, but it keeps the match tight. With a conversion here, Frank, who is an excellent spare shooter, will lead by 21 pins.
Good speed. Nice shot. Spare in the 4th. Ellenberg, the tournament leader, has a 21-pin lead. More of the title match after this.
Excuse me. The excitement just keeps on rolling on the Professional Bowlers Tour. A $125,000 shootout at the St. Louis Open next Saturday on ABC Sports.
When we run over, we have to bowl through, which we just did. Steve Cook doubled in the 4th and 5th frames with strikes. You see it there. Now Ellenburg, the tournament leader, spare up in the 4th, shooting in the 5th. Another 10, right lane.
Identical to the shot he left on the left-hand lane in the 4th frame. Frank converted it with just a perfect straight across lane shot. Frank, who started bowling at the age of 13, is married to an excellent bowler, his wife, who was a recipient of the Billy Lou Scholarship Award for bowling, and she attended the Arizona State University with that scholarship.
Late Billy Lou, preceding Beau here in our telecast.
One of the many scholarships that are available to the aspiring high school bowlers going into college. I think if you have just a message, if you have a son or daughter that is a good bowler, you should check out the scholarships available. In fact, the winner of the Billy Lou Scholarship Award this year is Kurt Pisano, son of the famous Chuck Pisano, the bowling writer and member of PBA's Hall of Fame. Son Kurt will be going to the University of Miami.
And collegiate bowling competition gets stronger and stronger each year.
Possibility of getting it in the Olympics also. That
looks good.
Great.
Looks good.
10-pin lead, Frank Ellenburg, 6th frame.
Yes.
Sliding way by, leaving the 1-2 sleeper, 8.
Combination that we saw Brian Voss start off his match against David Ozio with. He left the 1-2-4-8. The 1-2-8 just as difficult. Have to get the ball to the left side of the head pin, let the ball hit the 1, drive in the 2 carry out the 8. A very deliberate Frank Ellenburg, important shot, leads by 7 pins with this conversion.
Two big fellows here in Venice, Florida. Following our telecast live from Dublin, Ireland, the first championship fight there in 63 years. The champion, Barry McGuigan, going against Cabrero of the Dominican Republic. Scheduled. It's going to be a neat fight, and I hope his dad, Barry McGuigan's father, sings Danny Boy, as he usually does before his son's bout.
That should charge him up. And here's a man needs to get charged up. Trails by 7, $38,000 at stake. People often ask me, how much money does it take you to tighten up? And Personally, Chris, I've always been inspired by a prize fund. I always felt that the more you pay, the better you bowl. But sometimes players become too deliberate, not wanting to make a mistake. I think you can see it in both these players' games. They've slowed down to the point where they're out of their normal rhythm, and they're not releasing that ball with the fluidity that we normally see.
Attention of the wives mirrored on Candy's face. Well done, Steve Cook, who ousted David Ozio in the semifinal match leading to this championship one, trailing by 8 pins, marking with the spare in the 6th frame.
My ruling point here, people say, well, how slowly can you bowl? And the PBA rule is very simply this: as Steve Cook pats a little rosin on his ball, he must wipe that off. Number one, that's a rule. You can't have anything on the outside surface. And he must release this ball and clear the approach within 15 seconds, or the penalty is imposed by Harry Golden. First is a warning, then a penalty.
There we go.
And Steve gets his 4th strike in this title match. We're here in Venice, Florida, the United States Open nearing its end. We'll be back. Ellenburg. No, a wobbly 7. In the 7th frame, he left the 6-10 marked with a spare. Now, we're in the 8th frame in a match that is running behind our schedule. That's why we bowled through. Sorry.
When I said that this is the oldest major tournament, go back to the early 1920s. It was called the National Match Game Championship, and right now we're down to a 1-game match with a $38,000 prize.
Back-to-back spares. 5 pins separating these two. The 6'7" Steve Cook can change that with this shot.
The semifinal match that Steve Cook won was changed in the 8th frame. Right now, he's in the 8th frame. He trails by 5, has a strike working, can take the lead right here. First time in a match, could be in the lead.
Tap, a kiss down at the end, and a big X on the score sheet. 8th frame strike double. Leads by 5.
And he likes it. The action in the 5-pin, that power driving over into the 10. A disciplined Steve Cook, not trying to use all power. He's got a beautiful blend between accuracy, power, discipline. He has the match in his hand if he can strike here in the 9th frame and hold off a charging Ellenberg.
Good enough. That triple. Not winning singles title since '83. His opponent not since 1981. This has been a pressure battle. Now, with a spare up shooting in the 9th, the tournament leader, Frank Ellenburg.
With that reaction, Steve Cook says, Frank Ellenburg, the landlord, is coming for the rent. You better get ready.
38 to the winner, 20 to the runner-up again. Concentration break.
Ellenburg, who starts so quickly, strike 1st, 2nd, 3rd frames, has been 5 frames without a strike. Had spare in the 4th through the 8th. 9th frame, trails by 15, must get striking.
The word must underlined and sounds so trite, but not to the bowler when he must do. And there you see Barry McGuigan, the only athlete I know that ever united a country in divided Ireland. And I did that at his last fight in Belfast. IRA members were right behind me, the opposition, and no problems. But what a young man that can do that, and sports often is an equalizer. So that's coming up next, live from Dublin.
Frank Ellenburg, who's coming up, trails by 15 pins, must strike on this ball to get back in the match.
It's a 2 on the left lane.
The match is not over yet, though. Steve Cook knows that he has to still have a good performance in the 10th as Frank Ellenburg lets it send a sail just a little bit wide, lays the 2-pin, but he should take his time as he has the whole match. Convert the 2-pin, he'd finish with 212. He would force Steve Cook to get a good count and a mark in the 10th.
Well, Ellenburg, Masters champion in '78, Steve Cook, Firestone champion, and would like to get his second major title. This, the U.S. Open.
Steve Cook will have to mark. Remember, in the 9th frame of the semifinal game on the right-hand lane, lane 32, he had that 4-6 split. If it happens again, he will lose the match.
Another 2, and too little. That's today for Frank Ellenburg with a 211.
For Steve Cook, needs 9 pins to win on his first ball. If he gets 8, there's a possibility of a tie. 7, he could lose the match.
There's your best way. The United States Open champion for the first time, Steve Cook of Roseville, California, and his wife, Candy. Tears of joy, and look at that gracious runner-up. We won't call him a loser, Frank Ellenburg. He gets $20,000. Steve Cook will get $38,000, and the title. Look at that follow-through. 6'7" Cook of California. 211 for Ellenburg. It'll be in the 240s for the United States Open champion of 1986.
Joined some great names, the Dick Webbers, the Don Carters. All of them have won either the national match game, the All-Star, or the U.S. Open. It's all the same. Great champion.
And Beau, the '78 Open champion, knows what it means. Big hug. Going away for a moment, then we'll come back to the Venice Galaxy Lanes. Don't go away.
The Professional Bowlers Tour, today from Venice, Florida, is being brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil in easy-to-pour and resealable plastic bottles, and by AMF Angle Ball, the Winter Pro Tour's #1 winner 3 years in a row. The angle strikes again.
From the president of the BPAA, Jamie Brooks, the trophy, and Chief Wapensky, the check to the United States Open champion, Steve Cook, 245 to 211. Coming up next on ABC's Wide World of Sports, fiery Barry McGuigan defends his WBA World Featherweight champion. He'll take on Danilo Cabrero. From Dublin, Ireland, live except on the West Coast. That's next on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Travel arrangements made through a promotional fee paid by United Airlines, now serving 13 cities throughout Asia and the Pacific. United, a fresh breeze across the Pacific. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports. Chris Schenkel along with Nelson Burton Jr. Once again, the winner, Steve Cook, 245 to Ellenburg's 211.
I'm fine.